So you've collected your data and now you're ready to make a graph. You can hand draw your graph, or if you choose to make it in a spreadsheet program like Google Sheets, I'm going to show you today how to do that. So just a couple things to look at before you start to actually go into the Google Sheets program is to make sure that you set up your data table in a way similar to this. And you'll notice that we have instead of putting the units in the table, the units are in appropriate places outside of the table, and this will allow the Google Sheets program to process your data. So you'll set your data up very similar to how it was in the Good Charts poster. One thing to keep in mind is if you do merge any cells, you could merge these ones, but if you try to merge these cells, it can cause some problems. So I would leave this cell blank, and that will help you to set up your data table in the correct way. So here you have your independent variable where we're changing the volume of water that we're watering plants with, and then you have your dependent variable, which is the height of the plant in 3 different trials. So today what we're going to talk about is how to calculate an average using the Google Sheets, and how to make a graph. And there's a couple options that I'd like to give you for a graph. To calculate the average, one thing that you'll do is you'll enter in a formula into the box, and assuming that you don't have any units in your cells, you can just push the equals key, start typing the word average, and you'll find the average function right here. And then you want the average of these 3 numbers. And so once you have included those 3 numbers in the box, and you can see the orange here relates to the orange here, you hit enter, and that calculates the average. And then to be able to save you time, you can calculate the rest of the averages just by grabbing this little dot at the bottom and dragging it down, and now you have your averages for all of your data. So one option that you have when you graph this is you could graph just the average. If you choose to do that, you'll need your independent variable, which is the volume of water. So you'll grab that, and then you hit the command key, and then you drag down over the average. And if you do this, then you insert a table. So go to insert chart. Insert a graph. You'll get some of your data, but it's going to be in a bar graph form. And because we have a coordinate grid here, and we want to be able to show a change and a trend in the change, we should change this to a scatter plot. And so you can go up to chart type, select scatter plot, and now you have graphing of the averages of all of your trials for different volumes of water. Now remember, before you finalize this, before you turn it in, you need to make sure that you attend to some of the things on the checklist in your foldable, and that would be giving this a good title. And so you might give it the title height of the plant due to different amounts of water. Also, don't forget your axes, your X and Y axes. This is average, but average what? Average height, and average height in what? Average height in centimeters of the plant. And then the volume of water, great volume of water, how? Volume of water in milliliters. So now your graph is in pretty good shape, but one thing that you might choose to add to show a trend is you might add a trend line. So if you go over to your chart editor over here, you can get this by double clicking on your graph at any time. You go down to the series, and you have some options here. You can change the color of your dots if you'd like, and the size and the shape. But one thing that you might choose to do is add a trend line. If you add a trend line, this will help you to visualize the direction of the change. But another thing you might choose to do is add all of your trials into the data. So we're going to do that now. And this time, instead of selecting just 2 columns, we're going to select the entire table, not the top stuff, and that's why we didn't merge these cells right here. And you're just going to select this. And whenever you insert chart this time, you'll get that graph, that bar graph over here. You select Scatterplot again. Then you should, if the switch your rows and columns is off, then you should be able to see a trend in your data again. And what's really nice about this is we have still the base data from our other graph, but we have more information, and this is going to help us to explain our data maybe in a better way. Again, you can add a trend line, and it's the same thing as before. If you go to customize and you go to series, and then you go to Trendline. The problem is this adds a lot of trend lines, and that can actually be pretty confusing and not really help us out very much. So in order to fix this problem, you go up to underneath series. The top is apply to all series, and you can just apply it to the average. So that way you can see a trend line for the average, and then the others you don't have to apply that to, and so we can see now a range in different types of data. And this will allow you to talk about this in your page 3 of your foldable. Don't forget to do what we did before by adding a title and axes, and you can see that in the chart editor over here there's a place to add horizontal, vertical axes, and then there is also a place for a title. So chart and axes titles. So this would allow you to add whatever title you would like. Again, we can add the same title as before, and that's the horizontal, so we don't have to apply this to the chart title up at the top. And you can select to get your horizontal axes. You can add volume of water just like before, and make sure to give your units. And you can do your vertical axes and give that a title. And again, we have, in this case, it's not average anymore, it's just height of plant in centimeters. And so now our graph is looking like it's in pretty good shape and ready to place into our lab foldable.